This is from because I my group in Los Angeles. It's like 1 p.m. in LA.
Yes.
So we have been taping them and then we send it by email and they all get it. So they'll learn it today.
Not doing it live.
Some people join us live.
People, yeah.
Yesterday we had 2 people. I just sent the text to people. Some people might join us soon.
Here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Ernie Agustin.
And Izzy. Whoa. How many cycles? 50?
No, we started in 1989.
Wow.
So it's a long time. Okay, we're gonna do Yud Daled, but we're gonna start on Yud Gimel. Well, here's Johnny. See, here's that's from Los Angeles. Johnny. Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom, how are you?
Shalom Aleichem, Johnny. Can you imagine technology? We're here in Belmonte, Portugal. If I described to you where we were, you wouldn't believe it. An old convent that's been turned into a hotel. We had a magnificent catered meal. We're looking over a valley that looks like Emek Israel in the Galil.
Yes.
It really does.
No, very similar.
And the weather it was very hot today. It's nice breeze now. So
Okay,
welcome.
cool. Thank you.
So we're on Yud Daled, but we're starting on Yud Gimel Amid Beis. Hahu Oretz Barusas of the Oslo Kamed Rav. A man gave a woman kiddushin. Time of Chazal, it was about a 6-month gap between when they got kiddushin when they did nisuin. Usually, when they had kiddushin, they did not live together, but they came to the Rav and she was pregnant. He already. So she claims it's the father is this husband. The who also says in Minoy, he admits he's moide that it's yesterday, our last few days we've been learning a similar sugya where if she's found to be pregnant and she says, it's a kohen who's the father, so we believe it was machlokes from Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua whether we believe her or not. So here he admits, on Rav Yosef, what's the problem? Now, number one, he's admitting that he's the father. So that's not a problem. The Oid, Rav Gamliel was the Tana who, in the last few days, always said she's Nemenes for different reasons. For example, let's say she was found not to be a Basula by her husband when they do have relations, and then she claims she was raped in between Kiddushin and Nisuin. So if you're not a Kohen, you can go back and live with your husband. With Kohen, it's a problem because she's a halachic zona. She wouldn't be able to go back to her Kohen husband. But Rav Gamliel uses a spore of migu, since if she's going to lie already, she's going to better lie. I fell off a bike. It wasn't by saying that she was raped by a man. It's not as nice as saying.
It's more demeaning. It's more demeaning for her.
Correct, more demeaning. So that's why over there, Rabbi Gamliel said we believe her. So also, Rabbi Shmuel says, what's the problem? Number one, in this case, the husband is not arguing. Number two, we say we already hold like Rabbi Gamliel. We listen to her. In this case, if the man had not admitted to the wife, would Rabbi Gamliel have been matir in this case? He says no. Shmuel said to Rav Yehuda Shinana, you have long tooth. That's Shinana. It's like
derogatory term.
Yeah, and it was a term that was used. Halachic Rabbi Gamliel. Halacha might be possible like Rabbi Gamliel, but va'at lo tavid uvda ad de'ikar rov ksher metzla. Don't paskin like him. Don't follow his shita unless the majority of people around, let's say in the city, regarding her, were ksherim, not they, not goyim. Over there, for example, where she wanted to make herself capable of marrying a kohen in the future, if, for example, a goy or a mamzer had relations with her, that would make her puzzle in the future to a kohen. So here, Shmuel told Rav Yehuda, don't puzzle Rav Gamliel until we make sure that there are majority of the people ksherim. But v'hacha Rav Psulim etzlo, a woman who's been given kiddushin is puzzled to all other men in the world. So this is not an example of Rav Ksheir Metzlah. This is an example of Rav Tzula Metzlah. So the Gemara says, "V'litamech." According to that far, Tikshulei he gufa. So why don't we ask about herself? Halacha v'atletavaduvda. You said the same all along that we've been learning the last few days, that halacha Rav Gamliel, but you're not pasuk Rav Gamliel. That means when it says we don't paskin like Rav Gamliel, that's lechatchila. Means if they came to the Rav, he wouldn't necessarily marry her to a Kohen. But b'di'evid, let's say she married a Kohen, b'di'evid we wouldn't force a divorce. But not make b'di'evid done. Okay, Rav Gamliel by the Rav. Rav Yeshua ain't in the menace. When she gives testimony like this, like she claims it was her husband, that means the father is the husband, or the father is a kosher. So we had a machlokes. Rabbi Gamliel says we believe her, and Rabbi Yeshua said we don't believe her. So Rabbi Yeshua ain't in them men. Is it true that Rabbi Yeshua says she's not believed? I'll show you a steer. Hey, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Almonas Isa, sheik share the. What's an almonas Isa? A little closer to the left. What's almonas Isa? Rashi. He ba mikoach sofek chala. Is a question that maybe she is the product of a halal. A halal, the classic halal, let's say a Kohen marries a grusha and they have a child. The child is a halal. Now, Kidila Kamon, we're going to learn this sugya later on. Shenitmad basafik halal. There is a question that maybe she's a product of a halal. What is that? Kagon, shezarek bal imo harishon lo get. So her mother had a husband, and the husband threw a get at her. However, Suffolk Court of Law, Suffolk, it landed exactly equidistant between the man and the woman. It means when you hand a woman a get and it's in her possession, she becomes a divorced woman. You don't even have to hand it to her hand. If she has a chutzner and you put it into the chutzner, she also becomes divorced. So here's the case, he threw it at her and it landed, we're not sure, is it closer to him, is it closer to her? So it's suffix whether she's a megureshes. And then umes, that husband died. V'nim tzazu, this woman, suffix grusha, suffix almana. We're not sure whether she's a grusha, whether she's an almana. The nasa kohen v'holim imena ben, and she ended up marrying a kohen. And almana is allowed to marry a kohen. They had a child. Zeu suffix halal. Now that son is going to be a suffix halal, because if the mother was a grusha, he's a halal. If not, he's fine. V'heid Rabbi Yishmael al menusa shel zeh shehik sheva. Rabbi Yeshua gave testimony that such an almana who died when this event happened, there's no problem. She's completely kosher. Alma, says Rashi, mukminin la chazaka. We leave her in the chazaka that she was. Raminan, al tafsilan and zumi safek. This woman was a kosher woman. You now want to passel her misafek that maybe karav law. No, leave her in the chazaka that she is. It's a general rule. Leave chazaka as is. Kloimar, shema b'al chalal. Don't make her a halal safek halal. So why do we say that in all those other cases, Rabbi Yeshua didn't believe? Here it seems to be makel regarding this. There's no comparison between the cases. Asam isha nisis. Now, one is a case where a woman actually got married. Remember, the other case is where she only accepted kiddushin. There's a big nafkamina. Before a woman gets married under the chuppah, boidekas v'nisis, she does a full investigation to make sure that her nesuin are going to be clean. The chazak is that she checked herself, and there wasn't a psul in her nesuin. Therefore, you can rely on the chazak. That's the case that Rabbi Yeshua relies by a woman who got married. We rely on her chazak. But hacha, in the woman who got kiddushin. So what's the possibility? Maybe she was mezana with somebody not the husband. or the other cases that we said, she was pregnant, maybe she was mazana with somebody else. Isha mazana boitekas mazana. A woman who's gonna fool around, it's not checking what the yichus of the guy she's fooling around with. So there we can't. That's why Rabbi Yeshua over there is more stringent and doesn't keep her in the chazaka that she said. Amar Rava, the Rabbi Yeshua kasha, and now you showed me a steer Rabbi Yeshua, the Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Gamliel, loy kasha. Just like you showed me a steer Rabbi Yeshua, I'm going to show you a steer Rabbi Gamliel. Laktani seif. What did the sefer say? Amar Rabbi Gamliel, kibalnu eduscha. We accept your edus. Avol ma nase, sharei goz Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, shelo lo hoshiv beizin al kach. On this case of an almonas ista, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was already gozer. Don't set up a bezin to investigate the case. Shakwanim shoyim lehem lerachik avol lakar. The Kohanim are very careful about the yichus. They're all they're interested in is chumris, not lakulas. And they didn't even set up a bezin because they knew the Kohanim would adjudicate not properly. El Amar Rava, Rabbi Gamliel loy kasha also Bori. When the Isha said that I was nivel by somebody who's kosher, she's b'tainis Bori. She knows for sure. The other guy, the husband, whoever is the cross claimant, isn't sure. So you have a tainis Bori, Thomas Suffolk. Rabbi Gamliel relies on the Bori. Hacha Shema. Here, even regarding the woman, she doesn't know for sure whether the Baal was a halal or not. Remember, it's a suffix, karav la, karav la. So here, she's also a Shema. Shema, Rabbi Gamliel is not going to pass him like her. Now, the Rabbi Yehuda, Nami like kasha, more says something else. Hasam had sfeika. When you have one suffix, we're dealing with a deraisa, so we always go standard. Suffix deraisa is l'chumra. When you have sfeik sfeika, when you have a double suffix, it's trace fake. What's the trace fake? So Rashi. Emotional suffix halal zeh. The mother that we said maybe what is going to produce a halal because maybe the get was thrown close to her or not. But noilad a suffix. There's also a suffix by her. So there's a double. We'll see what it is. V'hi atzma loy nashami suffix. V'zu shaba machmas bna karla sfeik sfeik. Where the case is about the son, it's a double suffix. Umedivra Yosef Tov ala matzasi. Rashi tells us from a certain Rabbi Yosef Tov, he found the following. What's not one sisa? Isha shahaya balis sfeik sfeik. Her husband was a sfeik sfeik. Go. Shenishgarso imo mi bala rishon. This man, the husband's mother, had been divorced from her first husband. It's a case of Safek Karev Law, Safek Karev Law. So we're not sure for sure that she was a Grusha. Umeis Pesach Shlosha Chadosh. And that husband died. The one who gave Safek Get died. V'nisis Lakoin Toch Shlosha Chadosh. Normally, before you marry someone else, you have to wait 3 months, called Havchana. You got to make sure who's the father. Is the first guy the father? Second guy is the father. So she married a Kohen within the 3 months. V'nisis Lakoin Toch Shlosha Chadosh. V'yolda et zed. And this guy was born. Safek shu ben tisha l'rishon v'kosher. Maybe he's a child of the first one. Child of the first one, she wasn't a grusha at the time. Maybe she would be kosher. I feel like some gureshes. She caught him get the sapra. She became pregnant before the get. I feel acher get. Yisrael v'lo kohen. Maybe the first guy was not a kohen. He was a Yisrael. The Safek ben shiva l'achron. Where there it's going to be a Safek whether she's a grusha uvnoshel kohen. Or Safek halal, ares vexveka. Shema ein of noshel kohen. Number one, the first suffix is maybe he's not even a child of a kohen. Maybe the mother was not a grusha, but she's called an isa, means a dough. There's a lot of ingredients in the dough. So that's what's going on in this one. There's a lot of things in this pot. It's like a dough that hasn't been mixed well. So Hilka, that the claim, a strong claim, now, even though normally by one suffix, we usually say because of the claim of Bori, We're not worried. Rabbi Gamliel is not worried about the chad safek, the kilei shema. But when there's a weak claim, he doesn't rely on that at all. Dafilu b'sfeik sfeika. Normally in Allah, if you have a sfeik sfeika, you always matir. Here, pasuk. That's Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Yeshua is the opposite. That when you have a chat, the problem of having a suffix deraisa l'chumra, that overrides even a bori claim. But a sfeik sfeika is so weak that it overrides even a weak time. What is the case of the almonisisa? As long in this discussion, because you notice we talked about maybe she's a grusha, maybe she's not. However, there can't be any discussion of mamzeris. Lo mishum nesinus. The nesinim were people who converted, but we didn't accept their conversion, so they're like goyim. Lo mishum avdei malachim. Avdei Shlomo also were ashirim, and they married Yisraelim, but like the children of Herod the king, who was an Evet. And again, his yichus is not good like a goy. Amr of Meir, Shamati kol shein bo echad mikol elu. I heard that as long as there's not any one of these psulim, masiyan lekuna would marry that woman off lekuna. Rab Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Yishum Rab Meir v'chener Rab Shimon ben Asio Omer b'dvarav ezer almonasisa. What's the case of an almonasisa? Called shenitma basafik halal. The case that Rashi brought, that maybe the husband's going to be a safek halal. Makirin Yisrael mamzerin shebeneim. Ve'ein makirin halal shebeneim. That's the brisa. They recognize the difference between Yisrael and mamzerin, but they don't recognize the difference between Yisrael and halal. What's this? Omer Mar. So the Gemara has to explain the brisa. Ezer almonasisa. There's no mamzer there's no suffix mamzer, there's no suffix goy, but it's a suffix halal kosher. Now the Gemara doesn't understand. Maishna hanach daraisa. The fact it says lo yavo mamzer b'kal Hashem. That's a daraisa dik that you can't marry a mamzer. Halal nami daraisa. It says in Parsha Semra, "Amanav halalazo nav halal lo sikach." What's the difference? The din of halal. So if it's a suffix, fine. Suffix deraisa is l'chumra. What should make a difference if it's a suffix mamzer? What should make a difference if it's a suffix halal? They both should be problematic. The Su and another problem. Amr of Meir, Shamati, Al She'en Bo Echad Mikol Elu Masim Lakul. As long as there wasn't mamzeris or goyas or the fact that they're goyim, you could marry them. So for Hainu Tanakama, what is Rav Meir? That's exactly what the Tanakama said. What is Rav Meir adding by saying that? The Su, and I'll tell you a third problem. Mishum Rav Meir, the cheder of Mishum ben Nasi Omer Kidvarov, Ezer Amanasisa, Kol Shenit Ba Safik Halal, the case of Safik Halal, Makir Yisrael Mamzer Shebeneim, Ve'ein Makir and Halal and Sheben. The community knew who the Mamzerim were, but they didn't really know the Halal. The Amrit Reisha Halal kosher, and in the Reisha case, you said that if it's a suffix halal, there's no problem. So there's a difference. Rav Yechdan, mamzer tzoveach. If all the person a mamzer, and he shouted at you, and he said, "I'm not," he protests. Versus v'chalal shoisek. When you called him a halal, he was quiet. Mm-hmm. And is iki binay, is the nafkamina between the two parts. Rashi. Adam kishakarim so mamzer, who's tzavek, he yells, he protests. Ushkarim so halal shoisek. That's ikke. That's the nafkamina bein Rab Meir l'Tanakam. We ask. Rab Meir and Tanakam are saying the same thing. Ubein Tanakam at the Brisa, Alib Rab Meir, Rab Shimon Elazar, Alib Rab Meir. What's the Tanakam suffer? Kol psul de korile v'shasuk pasul. It's a problem. If somebody calls you a name and you don't respond, so we're concerned that you are that person. If they call a person a mamzer and he just accepts it, we have to worry that he's a mamzer. V'hachi kamer tanaka. He said, kol she'en bo lo shituk mamzeris. There was no silence when you called him a mamzer. V'lo shisik nesinis. When you called him in a sin, he wasn't quiet. V'lo shisik avdei malachim. V'lo shisik chalal. When you called him a chalal, he also wasn't quiet. So according to Tanakama, that's why he's more machmir. The Karmele Rav Meir, no. Hanechu the Kaposel Lebakol. The ones like Mamzer Nasim, that's if he's quiet, we would posel him. Aval Shisu Chalal Kosher. But if you're quiet, because remember, a Chalal knows I can marry other Jews. Remember, if you're called a Mamzer, you can't marry anybody. So that's a story why they would protest. A Chalal might not care very much because he knows a Chalal can marry other Jews, right? It's not the same insult to him because he knows he can marry other people. But responds the Carmel Rav Meir, when did Rav Meir say that you're kosher if you were silent? Lo dekarle chalal v'shasik. It wasn't the case where he was called a chalal and was quiet. El dekarle mamzer v'shasik. He was called a mamzer and he was quiet. Now, why make you kosher? Hai v'shasik savar. Mamzer call it Islam. I don't have to protest. If I was a mamzer, everybody would know about it. Mamzer got around in the community. I don't have to say anything. I have a mamzer, it's soveya. But a mamzer who yells back that I'm not. That's that. And halal v'shoisek possible. But a halal who is quiet is possible. Not like we said before, that maybe he's quiet because he doesn't care. Hadi ishtik savar. That which was quiet, like we said before, is maybe because I know I can marry other Jews. Tani chad Rabbi Yosef Shisuk mamzer kosher. One brisa says if a mamzer is silent, he's kosher, and she's a halal pasul. The tiny there's another brisa that says it's the opposite. Shisuk halal kosher, shisuk mamzer pasul, loy kasha. It's this machlekes tanaim. Ha Tanakh Rav Meir. Ha Rav Shimon Elazar Rav Meir. I want to read the halacha. Kosher begadim also b'psul mishpacha. This is from Shulchan Aruch. If somebody calls a person a mamzer, you go to terminal mamzer or a halal, the hushosek, and he doesn't respond, we worry. We assume that he's got this psul. So we won't marry them to a Kohen unless they undergo a full investigation, family tree, etc., etc. Means we don't accept them as a chazak. Divrei Gemara, Ketana Kama. V'yesh oimrim shudavka kasher yadua lanu shenisar psul b'osa mishpacha. There has to be already a rumor that this family had some kind of psul. The imlav, but if there's no rumor that there's a psul in this family, gamim shoisek, even if he's silent, when someone yells at him that he's a mamzer, ein zu hoichacha that he's a mamzer, and we could be mekel. The yesh oimrim shedvar meil amurim bizman shayu based in manishim as megadas chaver b'psul yosef. There was a time where if you insulted someone by calling him a mamzer, Bezdin would fine you. Avol bizman hazeh im echarfin asher b'shas mariva v'shoisek ein zuraya. So there's no proof anymore because there isn't the real like in our we call people's names. It's not that serious anymore. So therefore, it's another reason why we don't rely on that. The Yeshua Meshagamim Shoisek Tomid Bignai Gonze Ein Zora Elim came. Garim also b'psul achav etzovechalab. That we only say that it's no proof if he yells and screams about it. So you can see, so machlokes for showing how we pass him. Mishnah. Amrab Yosef. Ma'aseh b'tinoikes sheyard l'malas mayim in ha'ayim. A girl before the age of 12 goes down to a well and she's raped. And we don't know who raped her. And that makes a difference. If it's a goy or a mamzer, she's not going to be able to be married to a Kohen. No, she doesn't know. We don't know.
Okay.
It's a suffix. It's lack of knowledge. If we know, then there's no question what the din is, right? We know if she was raped. Remember, it depends if she's a panui, if she's a pnuya. So there's machlokes whether panuya bola pnuya, the child is a mamzer or not, or makes her halachic zona. We hold it's not. The only problem is a goy. If a goy, like that's why a lot of the balshuvas who go to college, and they sleep around with goyim, they can't really marry. They're also treated as halachic zonos, according to the halacha, and they wouldn't be able to marry a kohen. Anyways. We go after Rove. We do a survey, statistically, who lives in this region. If it's Rove Ksherim, it means there's no Mamzerim there, there's no Goyim there. So we can marry her to a Kuna. She's Panui. Panui, if she's not an Eshes Ish, right? She hasn't Kiddushin. So somebody sleeps with a Panui, a Jewish man doesn't make her halachic zone. So if she fooled, let's say she went to Bar Ilan and fooled around, that would be easier. If she went to like a secular college and fooled around with non-Jews regarding marrying Kohanim. And by the way, Rabbanim will ask, in today's world, with Bali Truv, et cetera, they go into all of these issues. What did Rabbi Yochanan hold like? Ikrab Gamliel, I feel Rav Nami Machshir. Remember, we learned yesterday that Rabbi Gamliel says if she says, tells us who, if she says it was a kosher person, so we rely on her, even if the rov are psulim. Rabbi Yeshua feel Rav Trem Nami pasul. Remember, Rabbi Yeshua doesn't rely on her, even if the majority of people are ksherim. So who is the ton of this Mishnah? It happened in a specific place. We'll see tomorrow what the place was and what the Maisa Shaya was. Okay, Johnny, I will send, tomorrow might work because we're going to learn probably before Shabbos sometime, like maybe earlier, like 6 o'clock, which in LA might be 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll send you exactly when it is.
No problem. All right. Enjoy and have a great day tomorrow.
Enjoy, Johnny. Enjoy, Johnny.
Bye-bye.